Welcome to the Immigration Lawyers Podcast. For more information about the program, please visit www.immigrationlawyerspodcast.com. Please note that this recording is informational only and does not constitute legal advice. Please consult an immigration attorney for specific information related to your case. Also, this recording is copyrighted and written permission is required for rebroadcasting. Hi everyone, my name is John Khosravi and I am the host of the Immigration Lawyers Podcast. I also practice immigration law in Los Angeles, California. You can learn more information about me by visiting www.jqqlaw.com. So today we're sitting with Heather Poole, a managing partner of Stone, Gregoric, and Gonzalez. Heather practices family-based and removal defense immigration for the U.S. She recently merged her own firm with Stone, Gregoric, and Gonzalez. And this year she became a certified specialist in immigration law, immigration and naturalization law, which is a very special deed. I was reading today there's only like 200 people who have that designation. She's also received many awards, including Super Lawyers, Rising Star for many, many years, I think 8 or 9 years now. She's also served as a chair of Southern California AILA, which is where I met her, and she's she's currently on the publication board for AILA National. No?
Not anymore.
Not anymore. What board are you on?
I'm on the National Board of Governors.
National Board of Governors. Wonderful, wonderful. It wasn't on the website.
Oh no, I'm going to fix that.
First of all, I want to congratulate you on your certification with the California State Bar. There's a lot of studying, and I looked at the test and I couldn't answer most of the questions.
Oh no.
It was a little embarrassing. But why don't you start by introducing yourself and then we'll get into it.
Okay, great. My name is Heather Poole. I'm 41 years old. Midlife, I guess. I grew up in Southern California, born and raised in the Valley, Thousand Oaks.
Oh, really? Me too.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, great. I don't have the Valley Girl accent, but when I went to law school in New York City, you could tell I was from Southern California. Everyone else was dressed in black, gray, navy blue, and I show up in Birkenstock, khakis, and a jean shirt back in the mid-'90s. So you could tell. And I was also always in a good mood, which was so funny. With New Yorkers, some of them really have that stereotype down. Everyone's in such a bad mood, or it's always pessimistic. But I was lucky to get exposed to immigration in law school. They had one of the best immigration professors at my law school in New York Law, Lennie Benson. And I had taken immigration law as an elective course. It was literally the last semester of my third year. I was about to graduate. I had gone to law school thinking I wanted to be a civil rights lawyer. I had gone to Montgomery, Alabama for a summer and worked in a civil rights firm, and was going to do racial discrimination cases, plaintiff's work, and I took an administrative law course with her and really enjoyed it. And so she said, I teach this immigration course, and I fell in love with immigration law through that last course, and I just changed my complete direction because I realized that immigrants have the least amount of protections of anyone under the U.S. Constitution. And I also interned at the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission which was one of the buildings near Wall Street that World Trade that fell down later, and did national origin discrimination cases. So I liked representing the vulnerable, and I was sort of ticked off that our Constitution didn't, help these people when we're supposed to be the country of opportunity. So. And then, of course, Lennie was a great professor and helped me get a job before I even graduated, so that was also a plus of entering the field.
Was that first job in New York or was it in Los Angeles?
It was in Los Angeles, yeah. I flew back for the California bar about 10 days, even before my graduation. I was there to take it, and then flew back for my graduation, and then the job I got wanted me to start working right away, so I flew back the next day. And it was chaos time. But
what kind of stuff did you do during your first job?
I was introduced to lots of different immigration cases, which I'm eternally grateful for.
Was it a full-service immigration law firm?
Except at the time, we didn't do deportation defense. So that's something I've learned on my own and with help of my colleagues. But I worked for Wolfstorf and Associates. Okay. Back then it was, Bernie was the partner and there weren't anybody else on the letterhead. And it was that's a small boutique firm. I think we had 17 lawyers at the time. Mostly business, NIV work, and immigrant visa work. And then when I came in, my thing, when I talked to Bernie about it, I said, you know, I'll be happy to do some of that business work, but my primary focus is public interest. So he put me on all the VAWA cases, all the 751 waivers, and then he actually put me on 245I cases for even the employment side, and that was a crazy period of time. We kept to sign up cases, and we were able to file all these labor certs just in time, just, you know, by April 30th, and I literally flew up to Sacramento the day of the expiration of 245I and met the chair of Sacramento AILA at the airport. He took the cases, I had I think 10 with me, to go hand file them at EDD that day so we could get the receipt notices. So it was a crazy time. So I got a really good introduction to immigration law, realized what I liked and what I didn't like, and then decided to go out on my own so I could choose more of my own clients and the cases I wanted to do.
How long after practicing at Wolfsdorf did you go on your own?
Year and a half.
Okay. So you felt comfortable. I did about a year and a half too before I went on my own.
Yeah, I think it takes about a year just to understand the basics of the acronyms and how the process works, and to be able to speak the jargon and to know where to look for your answers, right? In no way did I feel that I knew everything, and I still don't feel like I know everything, but at least I knew where to look.
Yeah. I still study like at least an hour a day, just reading stuff sometimes over and over again. Because there's
you are diligent. I don't spend that much time.
So you started your own firm after a year and a half. Wolfsdorf is Santa Monica.
It was Pacific Palisades at the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then where did you move closer to your house or home? Or?
Yeah, I actually started the business to save money out of my friend's back bedroom in Monrovia, which is a suburb of Pasadena. And then I would say within 4 or 5 months, I then started a satellite office in Pasadena, and it grew from there. So I didn't want to, you know, I saw these law school debt that I was paying. I didn't want to incur a bunch of new debts on top of that. So, and I wasn't expecting to have my own firm, and just seemed like the right thing to do at the time, and grew from there. And I learned the first year that I did 95% marketing and, you know, 5% actual client work, you know, things they don't teach you in law school.
Yeah. Now, when you started your own practice, did you just focus on those areas of like VAWA, removal defense, or were you going to do everything that came along that was immigration?
The things that would come to me were mostly VAWAs and family stuff in the beginning, but you know, then I'd represent a neighbor who needed an H-1B, or you know, do some NATS cases. So you can't get as choosy when you know you don't have built-in resources or moolah. So you get a lot of crappy cases, but you take them because you want the experience. So the more I developed and the more I could get, you know, choosy, I definitely started to hone the specialty areas that I wanted to focus on.
You just talked about being choosy. One thing that's beginning to be a problem for me is when I started my own firm, I didn't have any clients. I just left, and internet marketing was the way I got my name out. Just free marketing, putting my name out there. People start calling me, but it's getting to a point where it's really annoying me when people call like repeatedly every day, and like I'd rather just like have lesser calls, but just like fewer clients. How have you dealt with that? I mean, there's a staff, but did you hire someone to be the go-between when someone called, or would you take the direct calls? Definitely.
I think that's the #1 mistake that newer practitioners, even if you're in a small firm and you have a couple lawyers, do is answer their own phones, because you can never get any work done if you're answering your own phones. And yeah, it may show that you're accessible to people, but it also shows that you're accessible to people too much so that you're obviously not good at what you do, because you're so easily able to answer the phone all the time. You don't have that much work. So I think it can backfire. But what really happens is what happens when you start getting a lot of work and you can no longer have the time to answer the phones, then you're going to lose client calls or potential new client calls. They're going to go into voicemail if you're lucky, but a lot of those are going to be hang-ups, and they'll just go to the next person who will answer the phone. So it may seem like an extra expense, but I am a big advocate of getting someone to answer your phone so you have a live person they can talk to, and so they don't go on to the next person, and then you can actually get work done and not commit malpractice.
Exactly, exactly. I've noticed they never leave phone messages. I have a lot of calls from Iran which don't speak English, so my receptionist will take all the calls the Iranians would just won't understand, they'll hang up. So I have a separate number for them, but those are like the biggest group that's like a headache when I have to take those direct calls. The rest, English speakers, I'll take my other line. But even that, I got to find someone who speaks Persian to deal with that, because it's too much of a burden to be able to work and deal with that.
Yeah, and modern technology has allowed us to do a lot more now than it was 10 years ago. I mean, there's answering services now that have those kind of services where they have someone, speaking the foreign language that you need. Some of those answering services are really bad. You should test them yourself, and pretend that you're an incoming client to see how bad they are. I mean, I went through 3 or 4 because my website was up 24 hours a day, and we'd have people from all over the place calling. We want to make sure that they had someone to talk to early on. And then, I found a reception service that I really liked, that were really friendly, and they were good with very emotional people. But it just took trial and error.
Yeah. Would you share the name of the service?
Oh, sure. Ruby Receptionist.
Ruby Receptionist.
And I know a lot of lawyers use it. It's a more expensive service, but I was never unhappy paying that bill. They were able to weed out a lot of the telemarketers and explain basics about our consultations and things like that to save us some time.
Well, that's good. So what kind of practice do you have now? Could you go into details of what your regular day entails with the practice, and then we'll go into the...
I have no regular day. What is this? I'm an immigration lawyer.
Let's go back up then to what just happened right now is you had your own firm, which is very successful, and you merged with a firm of Stone, Gregoric, and Gonzalez in downtown Los Angeles. And this happened 4 months ago.
May 1st, yes.
May 1st, 2015. How has that transition been happening? And just fill me in to the extent that you can about how that works, merging an immigration firm and your caseload and having additional offices. How does that all go down?
I'm putting a lot more miles on my car than expected. I'm hoping, because I am near a Metro Link, I'm hoping to eventually have a normal schedule. But right now, I've been very lucky that this firm has seen the vision that I have, and we have similar visions as to expansion and understanding that not all our clients are easily able to come to downtown Los Angeles, and I'm more known for Pasadena, so we kept a presence there, and then we have a presence in Orange County. And we have a lawyer who goes down for those cases, and we have constantly looking for asylum cases in the Santa Ana jail and Theo Lacey. So we want to go to where our clients are. So they've been really understanding about the possibilities. And I was intrigued to join this firm because I've always been able to refer out a lot of the cases that I don't do. But one of the benefits of being in a firm that does everything and has such experts here, we have the most certified specialists in immigration law of any firm in the entire state is in this firm. Interesting. So I can feel comfortable walking down the hall, to Josie Gonzalez about a difficult labor cert that I've come across because I'm dealing with the spouse of the person who is trying to do a different kind of family application, and I can ask for her advice on something instead of having to fully refer the case out. So that kind of saving of time and then having those resources at my fingertips is quite an advantage.
Definitely, definitely. Now, since the time you opened your own firm to this merger, was it just the same firm that you were going, or did you have different firms and partnerships that changed since you started your own firm, or was it one?
No, it was just it was always my firm, and we were a professional law corporation from the beginning, and then over time, as I realized that as the marketing was working and the exposure was working, Heather couldn't do everything, so we went from a solo firm to a small practice with a couple associates.
And what kind of marketing did you do when you were starting out?
Well, the internet looked pretty funny back in 2001. My first website was atrocious, and it was something I put together on, I'm trying to think of it was some sort of Microsoft program to create websites. WordPress didn't exist back then. But it was awful, but at least there was some exposure. And then I went through a private website company that had sort of like the early rendition of WordPress, where it looked like it was Microsoft Word to edit it, so it was really easy to add pages to it. And there's a lot of companies out there that tailor to attorneys and make it easy for them to do it. But I learned from that time, this is an advantage I have. I feel computer somewhat literate. Mm-hmm. So the internet is still quite young when it comes to legal services, and I'm going to take the time and put as much information as I can out there, but not too much that I'm actually giving legal advice, yeah. Right? We don't want people making poor decisions without talking to me. And that was the beginning of the marketing. And then I took marketing courses. I learned everything I possibly could about presenting my services and differentiating. That's one thing I definitely suggest for any of my colleagues, is that they need to figure out what kind of cases they enjoy, mm-hmm. and focus on that area. If you do everything and you're one person, it's going to be the jack of all trades scenario. You're not going to be good at anything.
Especially with immigration, like I see people do everything. I'm like, you can't learn immigration. Each part of it, asylum could be its own thing, family could be its own thing.
Right.
I'm kind of shaving off practice areas more and more.
Mm-hmm.
Stop doing removal, stop doing asylum. Pretty close to making family a small part, only if it's an additional part to a business case, mm-hmm. or something. Because it's just too much to handle and too much going on for me to be a master of all these fields.
Yeah, but it's also, I think, difficult on immigration attorneys because we all need to keep our toes in all these fields, right? Mm-hmm. Because we need to be able to spot an issue that, maybe this family solution won't work for you, but maybe right, an E2 could work for you.
Yeah, the awareness has to be there, definitely.
Yeah, so it's challenging to be an immigration lawyer. I think it takes guts and courage to be an immigration lawyer because everything's constantly moving and changing around.
Yeah, definitely. But let me go back to the marketing course you took. Were they formal courses or something you watched online or read a book?
No, it was interactive. It was one of these courses that I think the speakers come to, like the LA County Bar, and they go around the country and offer these courses, and it was all through the phone, and then you present some things to them to review, and they say, well, no, this isn't convincing, this is. Mm-hmm. And they really help you focus. And one of their common themes, which I have totally embraced, is niche practice. Mm-hmm. That's one of the things we dread besides notarios in our field, right, is that you have somebody who's dabbling in immigration, who's also a personal injury attorney and an insurance attorney, So you really need to figure out, even within immigration, you need to have a niche.
Mm-hmm. I 100% agree. That's the advice I give everybody. You got to know all the areas, but you really need to specialize in it. You can't say specialize, but
I know
you really
what you
need to focus.
Now I can, finally. Yeah.
So what have been your failures and successes, like either one, if you like to speak about them, that really stood out? Out of your failures, you learned something which you don't do again. Was there anything in particular during your years of your own practice where, I wouldn't say messed up, but something that happened really bad or things didn't work out, but from those you learned it made it grow or something good happened out of it?
Well, that's inevitable. Something mm-hmm. bad's always going to happen, something that you didn't see coming, something despite how well prepared you are.
You
like,
get that
I didn't know that.
Feel in your stomach when you realize it.
We're not going to curse, but it's that moment. Yeah. And I think that still scares me to this day that I'm going to screw up somebody's case. No matter how much you think there's always something you don't. Mm-hmm. I think I had a case a long time ago where, and I really don't think that this is an immigration lawyer's burden, but I still felt like there was something maybe I should have known, though it's not objective. And it was a situation that actually I turned into a positive situation by writing an article about it later, where I had a client who came to me with, she was married to a U.S. citizen. They wanted to get, adjust, and everything else looked good on the surface. But a question that I didn't ask was, how did you get this divorce in your home country if you were here? Mm-hmm. And it was an introduction to how immigration looks at California family code. Because she thought, you know, I can get a quickie divorce in my home country, even though they're good with it, California may not be, because even though I've been here illegally and my ex-husband was here illegally, we're both citizens of this foreign country. California family code says we attach residency to you the minute you hit 6 months here, whether you're legal or not. So we got before the adjustment interview, and we had this very wise, experienced supervisor who said, nope, we think that this marriage is invalid because of the divorce decree from Chile. It was not obtained legally because she wasn't physically there to apply for it. So to me, it was like, this is a new burden on immigration attorneys. We have to look at family law documents and figure out if they were complied with by the law of their country. You know, it's like, this, shouldn't they have gone to a family lawyer to make sure this was legit? And that was, you know, the burden, almost like, you know, Padilla v. Kentucky is for public defenders. You know, how far do you need to know another area of law?
Well, it's kind of going into the details of that case, but the divorce was granted by the courts in Chile. So Chile recognized that divorce.
Right, but California family code, the law, the judge would say that that's not invalid if not valid if it was challenged, but it was never challenged. But immigration said no. You know, local issues of divorce and marriage are based on the state where it is entered into. So even though they entered into the divorce there, since they were physically residing here, California attached jurisdiction to these two individuals. So it goes by the California family code.
Wow, that's good information.
Yeah.
That's really that's
right?
remarkable. I didn't even know that. Wow, that's really good information.
So it was difficult for the clients to understand that, you know, their marriage was not valid for immigration, and so they had to go. She had to go in and file in California divorce court, and you know, with this, we all know the 6-month waiting period by law, but you've also got the waiting period of getting it onto the judge's desk to sign and becoming formal. And on top of that, we had a child who was going to be turning 18 very soon, and he wanted to sponsor the stepchild. And we know stepchild law means that they have to be legally married before he turns 18, right? So I hooked him up with a family lawyer who understood the parameters. We filed the case, and after the 6 months, they did an ex parte appearance before the judge to explain the circumstances, so the judge would put that at priority amongst everybody else. Then the judge remarried them. Then we filed the adjustment, and you know, all ended up well. But they were frustrated by the process because she didn't know that her divorce decree was invalid, and you know, they lash out at me that I should have known that as an immigration attorney. And I said, well, we don't inspect the underlying validity of documents that have nothing to do with immigration. You know, that is something that she should have gone to a family lawyer to make sure that this was legit. You know, so I really don't think it's a burden on us as immigration lawyers to have to go that essential level. But what it does give us the burden of is when we get those documents, looking at them in face value and then telling the client, did you talk to a family lawyer? Did you talk to a criminal lawyer about this documentation? You know, and it really underscores the need for immigration lawyers to have those kind of bonds with other attorneys outside our practice area, right? Which also helps with referrals. But yeah, so all's well that ends well in that case. But you know, you can turn lemons into lemonade. So I was able to get an article in Los Angeles Lawyer about it, and so it was. In the end, it was really good to know. But it was just a reminder of, just because you think you know everything about immigration law, you know, you got to know everything else too.
Wow, that's a great story. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, so how's management of the firm been going with regards to running a team of people? Do you use any particular systems like software, or how do you manage when you have group of people? How many people did you have in your office before, and how many do you have now, and how many do you expect to have?
That's a lot of questions.
Yeah.
Software, we can start with that. My big thing is I do probably 10 to 15 paid consultations a week, and then they're always very complicated consultations because I charge for my consults. And then so there's probably some additional research involved in that timing. Then I'm reviewing cases and also supervising staff. So all of that is the common theme of Heather needs to find herself some time. So I have embraced technology as much as possible. Big Apple fan, but unfortunately in the legal industry, it's still very minimal Apple use. But I've embraced Office 365 about, I don't know, 5-6 years ago maybe. Out of necessity and frustration, I had a physical server that I thought was being backed up to an online source, and I wasn't getting the alerts that it was full. So when it crashed, I had 90 days of data that looked like I could not retrieve. And so $5,000 later, from a retrieval company, they found the data, but it made me realize that technology can be a crutch, but also if you don't utilize it correctly. So the wonderful thing about Office 365 was, they back up like 7 times a day to 10 different places in the United States. And so even if you have a disgruntled employee who goes and just erases your database, you can get it back.
So you keep
easily.
an in-house server?
They do here. I did not through my business. I did not have it in-house anymore because of that incident. I have kept it all in Office 365.
Office 365 is like a cloud service?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it's run by Microsoft. So as part of that, it also has a free subscription to all the Microsoft Office products. So the other reason I really embraced it is because I travel so much for my job. I have a truly nationwide practice. Most of my clients are not located in Southern California. And once in a while, they'll ask me to fly out to their adjustment hearing or their removal hearing or citizenship hearing. And I need to be able to pick up, copies of the files and easily feel like I'm in the office. And so Office 365 is based on you just need internet access. So my server is completely up there, able to tap it, seamless exchange, Microsoft Outlook integration. So it really helps me save time, and I can look at it from any mobile device. So as for software, I was using Abacus Law for years. And it's like a contact management software that has case integration, alarms, reminders, things like that for the legal work. But I thought it was very much, in the past, it wasn't all encompassing. And I'd find myself having lots of different programs for marketing, and I thought they just needed to update it. I didn't like the forums version of it, so I started using AILA Link for forms. And then we're working, I think it's not Zoom, it's Logix is what we use here. And so far it's got some hiccups to it, but it does allow for your savvier tech clients to fill out online forms, which saves us a lot of time and makes those cases go faster, and they're more economical.
I see.
So.
Now you said you travel nationally to go to hearings, various places. How different is it when you go to different courts? I know Los Angeles is different from San Diego. I can imagine if you go to Georgia, that court's really hardcore. How do you adjust to that and prepare for that?
Well, I mean, I would say the most differences I've had are in the adjustment interviews themselves. I remember one of my worst ones was in Indianapolis. It was a small little office, and I walk in there and tried to shake the hand of the officer and didn't want it. She hardly even wanted to look at me and said, "These are your clients." I was like, "Okay, this is going to be fun." Walk in there. I try to sit next to my clients, and she's like, "No, you're back there, counselor," and points to a chair in the back. I'm like, "Okay." And then she said, and I sit behind my clients, but I'm in the middle so I can see what's going on the desk. And she says, no, you need to sit directly behind your client. I was like, wow, what is this lady's problem, right? It's not like I'm giving them hints from the back. And then she had a camera on the desk that looked obviously fake, which she claimed was on, and just made my clients a nervous wreck, unfortunately. And then when we got out of there, she continued the case. And I said, can I have a continuation notice, something so I can follow up with you later? And she's like, oh, we don't give notices to attorneys. You know, so you're going, wow, okay. And I've been asked a couple other times, you know, why did you hire this attorney? She lives in another state. Why is she here? You know, and which is really none of their business.
Yeah.
So I always prepare my clients for that. But usually they're very good at answering. They say, well, you know, I had an abused spouse case, and I looked on the internet, and Heather's one of the best. Mm-hmm. And that's all they say, yeah. You know. And that usually, if it's an older immigration officer, they're like, oh, you've had her on the internet? You know, like, it's something novel, like they've never heard of that before. But a majority of the time, it's not a big deal. It's just a topic of conversation. But you have to tread lightly. Definitely, you don't want to go in there acting like you own the place or you know the place. And just really respect the officer, because you don't know, they've never seen you before. They may think you're some highfalutin Los Angeles attorney, yeah. You know, when you're showing up to, you know, Pennsylvania or something where they've never seen your type before. Yeah. Yeah. So I dress very conservatively whenever I travel, unless I'm going to Vegas, of course.
Now, with regards to being a good immigration attorney, what kind of characteristics do you see a good immigration attorney having, and what have you seen like the less good immigration attorneys? What have you seen that characteristics of personalities being?
The worst thing I've ever heard was, unfortunately, it came from the district director staff here. They said that you know, some of the officers really don't want to work with attorneys at all, because there's certain attorneys who they don't like the outcome, or they don't like the case has been continued, and they will sit there and yell at the officer, thinking that somehow that's going to change their mind. I don't know how rational that is, but and they say it happens with newer practitioners who don't seem to have the respect or the decorum needed, and it really reflects poorly on the rest of us. Mm-hmm. So in some of our district director meetings, you know, they can be very hostile towards us when they don't know us, because of something that recently has happened with a young attorney or a new attorney who just thinks that's okay. And it happens apparently more so in InfoPass appointments. And yeah. I can understand attorneys are frustrated, but there's never an excuse to yell at an officer.
Definitely. It definitely doesn't help at all.
No.
It makes it worse.
No.
Completely makes it worse.
I was like, how did you graduate from law school? You yell at your professor? Yeah, it's just, you know, you get more bees with honey, as they say.
What kind of issues keep you up at night on these cases? Is it just the stories of the people, worrying about what's going to happen with their case, or what kind of stuff? The reason why I ask is because every time I file a new case, I get kind of nervous until I get that receipt and the check is cashed, and then I'm always a little bit nervous of like, what if they, because random stuff comes to USCIS all the time, what if they like deny it for some weird, do these pop in your head, or after a while those go away?
I'm actually the opposite. I'm relieved when the case is filed. You know, it's in their hands now, because I know that I've done everything I possibly can do by the time it's filed. Yeah, I would be more nervous about the cases that we had to rush, definitely, because the person's waited to the last minute. But I've always been very blunt with my clients. Mm-hmm. Like, look, you give me this documentation, it's going to improve your case. You don't, it's not, right? So the things that really keep me up at night are the stacks that you see on my desk, which is, I know everybody wants their case filed right away. Mm-hmm. And they came to me for a reason, for my expertise, but you can't necessarily rush expertise. Mm-hmm. So trying to get back to the client as soon as possible and get them out, that's what keeps me up at night. And then it's not, luckily, the story, since I've been doing it for so long, and I do a lot of 601s, hardship cases, a lot of VAWAs, a lot of 751s based on abuse and cruelty. So I guess I don't want to say I'm jaded, but I have a thicker skin, mm-hmm. so I don't take that kind of stuff mentally home with me anymore.
You must have heard like some crazy
stuff. Oh
stuff.
yeah, some really, I mean, there's some bastards out there. But I think it's just getting it all done and not screwing it up because you're going too fast. Yeah. You know, you have to find a balance. I think that's the thing that, I wouldn't say keeps me up at night, but, you know, I hear that I grind my teeth.
Actually, I have to get guards I'm picking up tomorrow because I've been grinding my teeth.
Yeah, it's terrible. Yeah.
And how's your personal life working out with being like a top immigration lawyer and having a personal life? Or is it able to exist, especially now that you have such a bigger workload than you did before?
It does take a special person to be with a lawyer to begin with, right? Because we have this tendency of always wanting to be right, and we use logic in our conversations, and the average person doesn't necessarily. So it can be frustrating. We really have to reserve ourselves and let them win the fight, a lot of the times. But I've been lucky in my life that I've dealt with people who are, in my relationships, I've been with people who are self-employed or understand the hours that I need to put in, and who have been there for me when I need to vent, because I think it's really important. And I've been very fortunate that I have colleagues throughout my life. Even when I started off as a solo after I left my first job, I was amazed how open other women in the practice were, welcome to the fold kind of attitude. And I still feel that even now, which is wonderful. We were talking about this earlier off the record, that immigration law, I think there's a common bond for all of us, that we have these crazy, insane cases. People who don't practice immigration law have no idea how hard it is. They think that we all just fill out forms, right? That we're notaries. And that creates this common bond and this camaraderie. I've never felt that strong, competition or worry that I'm going to have my cases taken away from me or someone's going to sue me, because we have this mutual respect for each other. There's some attorneys who unfortunately take advantage and try to screw other attorneys, because they think that they can help the client or impress the client. I've been, knock on wood, unfortunate not to have been a victim of that. But I think that it's a unique area of law. I don't hear that. I don't think that we have from my understanding, the degree of depression, anxiety, and alcoholism and drug use that other attorneys do, even though ours is, I think, the most complicated area next to tax law. So that camaraderie really helps with the stress that, whether or not you're in a relationship with someone, because, half the time I'm talking to my partner, about generalities, I get this deer in the headlights blank look, right? But it just helps to vent. So, no, I'm very happy for organizations like AILA that bring attorneys together, and so we can, either on listserv or at receptions, we can just say, gosh, I had this case, or what would you do? And, we can commiserate.
Yeah, whenever I get an immigration attorney next to me, we start talking, we'll go with the caseload like we're kids talking about candy or something. I did this, did you hear about that?
I know, that's a terrible thing. We need to resist that urge. We need to have lives outside of our practice, yes.
More and more my friends, like when I go double dates, it's always with other immigration attorneys and their spouses, so it's pretty much immigration is taking over life. But I'm so happy when I wake up and I go and check my emails. I'm so excited to see what kind of new case I'm going to get and who's contacting me.
Every day is different. Yeah, that's a benefit.
And you don't see that often with other fields. It's a lot of negativity, the alcoholism, you said, the dysfunctionality of family lives. Like immigration, you could organize that really well. So it's a very excellent field. So I work in the law student section for AILA, and I always tell students, like, this is the field you want to be. Don't listen to the false information that's filling out forms. It's nothing.
Yeah.
Form is like 2% of the first 2 pages of the form. Then it's the meat and potatoes, which is law. And not only is it immigration law, you got to, like you said, marriage law, family law, criminal law. You have to have an understanding of this, have partners who can help you with that. And it's just an exciting field. To one of my last questions, it will be, where do you see yourself in the next 10 years? What's your goal to be in the next 10 years? Without getting yourself into trouble.
Yeah, it's going to sound arrogant, but my personal goal is to be the Gloria Allred of immigration law.
Awesome.
Yeah, I like representing the strong and the powerful who have been victimized despite their own efforts.
Great. Well, thank you, Heather. It was a wonderful talk. I really enjoyed it.
Good.
Thank you for listening. To learn more about this program, please visit www.immigrationlawyerspodcast.com. Also, attorneys can visit www.immigrationlawyerslistserv.com to learn more about special listservs for immigration lawyers that provide forums to discuss professional questions and issues and exchange information with other practitioners from across the globe.